Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down a major pattern change that'll be coming to the United States later this week, and this is going to bring another shot of Arctic air to a large chunk of the United States. In addition to this, we'll also be watching for some snow potential across parts of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, but let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today. And we'll first begin with the Ohio Valley and the East Coast, and this is still where we have a winter weather event that's been ongoing for really the last several hours all the way through last night. We've been seeing a lot of snow and ice accumulation stretching from Texas all the way back into areas now in Kentucky and back even through Virginia, and now this pocket of moisture is actually going to be moving to the north and northeast toward New England, and we're actually going to see some snowfall overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, and we'll be breaking down more details on this particular event later in this forecast, so make sure you stay tuned. Further off to the north, we also have a little bit more moisture across the Midwest. Again, nothing really too crazy out of this. We've seen a couple of snow flurries with this, but it hasn't really been much. It's more than anything just cloud cover. And then further up here to the north, this is actually the winter storm that went through the Midwest literally a couple of days ago. Brought the blizzard-like conditions to Michigan, areas like Illinois seeing upwards of a foot of snow. This low pressure system has literally corkscrewed back off to the north and northwest, and this is actually going to be our next shot of cold air and perhaps even another shot of snow in parts of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. And we're going to be breaking this down for you here in just a couple of minutes. And then back over on the West Coast, pretty quiet right now, really not a whole lot of activity. A little bit of some showers back up near like the Pacific Northwest, but again, it's really nothing too crazy as of right now. All right, let's talk more about the weather pattern that'll be impacting the United States over the next week or two. And to look at that, we're going to look at the jet stream, and this gives us an idea of the weather patterns that are happening across the United States. And notice right now the jet stream, this is our polar jet stream. It's stretching from the Pacific Northwest back up even closer to Alaska, back down into areas like the Central Plains, and then through areas in the Northeast here. Notice a little bit of a jet streak right here, which means if anybody's flying airplanes, there will definitely be some turbulence across parts of Illinois, Missouri, and as well as back through Kansas. And here's that massive low pressure system that's back up in Canada. It did initially bring some heavy snowfall to areas in the Midwest and as well as back through the northern Ohio Valley. And this low pressure system is going to be responsible for our weather for the next 7 days or so, because watch this as we go into Wednesday into Thursday. This low pressure system is actually going to fall a little bit down here to the south. We're going to get a bit of a dip in the jet stream here, and once that happens, this is going to usher in cold air again to areas in the Midwest, meaning that for those that are in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Southeast, or the East Coast, you are the next ones up for getting a shot of Arctic air as well. It will not be nearly as bad as what we just saw this past weekend in like the Southern Plains, for example, but it is going to still keep areas very frigid, and overall the weather pattern is just going to be brutal. It's going to be really cold across these areas, and again, dangerous cold weather is possible when you have exposed skin. What we're looking at going into Thursday and Friday, that low pressure system will move a bit further out to the east. We'll get another shot of cold air here again as we get closer to Friday, and by around Friday into Saturday, we'll have to watch for this low pressure system here to produce the potential for some snow showers from about Illinois back into the northeast, and this will bring the potential for snow in the Ohio Valley. And I know so many of you are desperately wanting snow in areas like Ohio. This will be your shot of at least some snow. Will it be a winter storm? Probably not, but you will at least get the potential for a few inches of snow out of this event. And then once we go into Sunday into Monday, we'll clear out. It looks to be a lot drier and most likely much warmer as we go into early next week, and we'll talk about that here in just a second in terms of the temperatures. Before doing that, this is what the future radar looks like over the next few days. Notice again, we'll be watching for snow and freezing rain from the southeast back into the northeast over the next really 24 hours. We'll be talking a bit more on detail in this here in just a couple minutes in terms of accumulation, especially for those near Pennsylvania, the DC area, New Jersey, New York City, and then back through New England. Once we go into Wednesday, things dry out a little bit. We might get a little bit more lake effect snow across parts of the Great Lakes, but it should be pretty minimal. By the time we get to Thursday, we'll be watching two different areas for snow, one of which will be in the Central Plains and Northern Plains, back near North Dakota and South Dakota, back even into Nebraska. In addition to this, some snow perhaps from Tennessee back into parts of New York. Again, notice how light that blue is. That means it's going to be pretty light snowfall overall. So we're not talking about a winter storm here, but there will be a couple shots of snow, both Thursday afternoon and evening, and as well as Friday morning into the afternoon hours. We'll have a couple of different shots there of some snowfall. Again, I don't think we're going to see significant accumulation out of this, maybe 1 to 3 inches in some areas, perhaps an isolated 4 to 5 inch reading, but again, it shouldn't be anything too significant. And then by the time we go into Sunday, we're going to have high pressure dominating a very large chunk of the United States. 1,041 millibars, by the way. That is a strong low pressure system, meaning that that we are going to be dealing with some dry weather across the East Coast for at least a couple of days. And early next week, there is a potential that we get a little bit of a disturbance growing in the southern and central plains. And if this does end up occurring, we actually could get a little bit of wintry weather back up in the Midwest. If not, we actually might see warmer air move to the north, and that could lead to a bit of a warmer weather pattern in parts of the Midwest as we go into early next week. So a couple things to watch there. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll be keeping you posted with the latest on that situation as well. Now, this is what the cold air mass looks like here across the United States right now. And again, notice all this blue, that's representing below average temperatures. The pink area down here is well below average temperatures. Actually, record-breaking low temperatures have been reported. And areas like DFW, Wichita Falls, back into Oklahoma, a lot of that's been reported over the last 24 hours. And again, this low pressure system up here to the north is responsible for a lot of this. But notice as we go closer to about Wednesday and Thursday, that cold air mass moves to the east, it shrinks, and it overall will not be nearly as impactful for areas in the northeast and the east coast. But notice back up here to the north, we have another cold air mass that's going to be developing here across areas from the Pacific Northwest back into the northern parts of the plains and then even into the upper Midwest. And by the time we go into Thursday afternoon, that shot of cold air is going to drop down again to the south, and we will be looking at above average temperatures, by the way, for some areas Thursday afternoon into the evening. But that's not going to last long because this cold air mass is going to collapse right back down to the south. But one thing you should notice here is that it's not nearly as pink. That means that this will not be nearly as strong as the Arctic blasts that we're dealing with right now, but it will keep areas in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the northern plains in a bit of a cold stretch, and that's going to continue all the way through the early weekend. By the time we get closer to Sunday, that moves toward the East Coast, and actually as we go into next week, above average temperatures will be returning to much of the Midwest, the northern plains, the Northeast. So some great news if you're looking forward to some of that snow melting, because that snow and ice that's on the ground right now, it's not melting until we at least get to early next week. So as we get closer to that time frame, there will be a better chance of it melting. Here's what we're looking at in terms of temperatures tomorrow morning. Again, notice many areas sub-zero back up to the north, and over the next several days, very minimal areas will be going above freezing. Notice the above freezing mark. Areas in the Midwest and back into Michigan, not going to be above freezing, but areas like Tennessee, you'll get above freezing at least by Thursday, if not maybe even Wednesday. And then once we go into Saturday into Sunday, that cold air will drop further down to the south again. And then once we go into Monday into Tuesday of next week, hallelujah, we're going to be looking at some nicer weather across the Midwest. And again, some of the snow will probably melt off, especially as we go into Tuesday afternoon. It looks like the temperatures will be getting into the mid to upper 30s in those areas. So some good news there. Wind chills tomorrow morning. One more morning of really cold weather, sub 30 to sub 40 degrees below zero in the Midwest. We'll have a little bit better weather as we get closer to Friday morning, but it's still going to be pretty frigid. I mean, we're still talking 20 degrees under zero. So again, definitely make sure you're bundling up if you have any outdoor plans. Now, in terms of the Northeast snow event, there will be some snow as we go into tonight across the DC area. Again, a lot of this will be light snow. Same thing with the New York City area as well. Once we go into tomorrow morning, there will be some light to moderate snow showers across the Northeast. A little bit more moderate snow, though, once we get closer to lunchtime tomorrow across areas in southern New England, primarily Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. And then that snow will pick up a bit more, and it's actually going to be a strengthening low pressure system once we go into Tuesday afternoon. So a bit more snowfall in Maine is expected out of the system, and I do think most of the snow in terms of the highest accumulation will be back up in Maine. When it comes to snowfall totals, we'll be looking at most areas around 2 to 4 inches of snow, but areas back up into Maine, 3 to 6 inches of snow is currently my forecast for the majority of the state of Maine. So be prepared for this. Again, it doesn't look to be like a winter storm by any means, but if you're in like northern Maine, maybe on the brink of being a winter storm. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.